Please stand by as we get ready to launch another episode of this reality radio CafeCast with your host and my husband, Denny J, K5DCC.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition, liftoff.
Now grab your glass and get ready to fill it up with some radio on the rocks.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of our live video CafeCast here in the Digicom Cafe, located in the beautiful Ozarks of Northwest Arkansas. This is just a virtual cafe where we gather from around the world to sit around the table and have a cup of coffee and some muffins or some bagels and talk about ham radio, communications, just about anything that we're interested in. My name is Denny J, and I am 69 years old. My call sign is K5DCC. The DCC stands for Digicom Cafe. This is how I try and brand our activities here. In fact, we just wrapped up, I think it's episode 303 of my audio CafeCast. And in the last month or so, I've made some wonderful new friends, including my co-host, Jim Brown, Professor Jim Brown. Go ahead, introduce yourself, Jim.
Good morning, everyone. I'm W0RLD. Top of the world to you this morning. It's a wonderful day in Indianapolis, Indiana, 400 or so miles away from the Ozarks of Arkansas. And we usually get our weather about a day later than your weather. So I blame you for all of our bad weather.
Well, we welcome all of you to our first video CafeCast. We're just going to relax and be ourselves and kind of introduce you to the Digicom Cafe and what we're doing. You may have noticed in the beginning intro video that we are located at the intersection of faith and technology. And so we cover a lot of different topics. Our goal and desire in our community is to maintain a culture of kindness where we all learn to listen, acknowledge, and share. And so we love meeting new people. In fact, in our audio CafeCast, our studios are located on Telegram. We have a Telegram chat group, voice chat, and we have friends dropping in daily. They get a chance to share and talk, answer questions. Jim is very good with keeping us interested in all things technology-wise or philosophy-wise. He's got a question of the day that we like to hear from him, and he makes us think. After all, being a professor, he's right in his role. In fact, why don't you just give us a little history about yourself, Jim, and your career and your ham radio experience, how you got into the hobby? What's your story?
Well, I'd be delighted to tell you. I first got into radio when I was a teenager, probably around 15, 16 years old. That's been a long time ago now, so I can't be all that precise. I'm coming up in a couple of days. I'm 75 right now. Sunday, I'll be 76. So it's been a while, and it's hard to remember details way back then. At any rate, in those days, we made a lot of our own equipment. We made our own power supplies. I would get junker television sets and take the resistors, capacitors, and transformers out and try to make something out of them. In fact, in high school, I designed and built a television transmitter called a flying spot scanner. And I did that my senior year in high school. I went on to become interested in college. I've always been interested in photography and photojournalism specifically. And in college, I went from being an electrical engineer major to a chemistry major to cinema and photography, which was my true love. And that's what my undergraduate degree is, in cinema and photography. went to grad school at Indiana University, and my first teaching job was at the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis. And I taught film in those days in the broadcast sequence, because TV stations were actually, in those days, in the 1970s, they were shooting 16 millimeter film. And then I switched over to the photojournalism sequence and eventually became head of that sequence. And then I joined the faculty at Indiana University School of Journalism and was dean of the school's Indianapolis program for 28 years. And I retired about 11 years ago and have been enjoying motorcycling, 3D printing, getting back into radio after a long hiatus, and met Denny J on the air, actually, and we became friends, and we're now trying to draw other people into our friendship circle and enjoy their contributions to the conversation as well.
Yep, helping to build interest in the amateur radio hobby. It's been a great hobby. I also have been a ham for over 50 years. I got my license when I was 17 in high school and have been in it ever since. I did take a little hiatus from it, though, back when the internet was invented by Al Gore. I took a real interest in that. In fact, that's an interesting story. My son was going to the University of Minnesota at the time, and I remember he came home from school one day and he said, "Mom, Dad, they got this cool thing called email, and we get messages from our professors about our studies and what we need to read or whatnot." And I was just fascinated by it. And I said, "Do you mind if we share that account?" He said, "I don't care. I don't plan on using it much. I just thought it was kind of interesting." So my first foray into the internet was through a tool called Gopher. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, indeed I do. That was a University of Minnesota deal.
It was. And it was just a little text thing where you would burrow into these folders, and you should have heard me. I was like a ham radio operator all over again when I was working all these different states and countries. I'd be telling my wife, "Hey, look at this. This folder's over in a server in Russia." Or we would just dig into all this material. Nothing terribly interesting, but I understand the scientific community used that a lot originally, didn't they?
Yes, they did. And the Gopher name came from the mascot of the University of Minnesota, which is the Golden Gophers.
Yeah. Well, you can tell where I grew up. I grew up in Minneapolis, or one of the suburbs, one of the northern suburbs of the Twin Cities, and both of our boys went to the University of Minnesota for a period. So, and it's interesting how your majors change. Our oldest son wanted to be a doctor, so he started out with that and found out how much work it was, changed his mind, went into international marketing. That didn't cut it either, and he dropped out after 2 years and just went into the workforce and was very successful. Worked for FedEx, worked his way up to management, retired early from that, and now he's in sales of carpeting, sales and estimating for a carpeting company, and doing fantastic. Our youngest son went there too to start out his career in computer technology. He's now a very successful programmer and IT guy for a company. Gets to work from home down here in the Ozarks of Northwest Arkansas, down in the holler, as we say. We're living here on 15 acres, and it's a great place to retire. I don't miss the big city of Minneapolis, I'm sorry to say. I love it down here in the country. And of course, because we're in the country, we have had internet issues. You may notice that, in fact, maybe commenting to yourself as you're watching this, "Man, his video looks pretty bad. It's so grainy." Sorry, Andre. Anyway, it's because of internet speeds. Right now, I am tethered to my iPhone, which is over to my right, sitting in the window. And my speeds are 5 down and 5 up. So I guess that's enough for some fashion of video. I think we might be no grains. Well, we're getting messages from our director, Andre, who is he's the brainchild behind our video CafeCast, and I want to thank Andre over there in Romania. He is a very techie young guy and has done all of this work putting this together. So we appreciate Andre. He's not a ham. He is studying to be a ham. And as I understand it, this may be streaming live on Twitch. I've never been on Twitch until today. Started looking, yeah, we're twitching. I was looking through some of the materials that are out there, and I get the impression that this is kind of a young person's platform. A lot of gamers out there. So you might be wondering, what are those old farts doing on Twitch?
That's because we're young at heart.
Exactly. And if we can do this to help build interest in ham radio for you, I think you'll live to appreciate us, because this is a fantastic hobby. We have the world at our fingertips with the little radio. I got radios all around me, little things like this, little HT. This is using digital technology called DMR. We've got HF rigs. We do all kinds of digital stuff on HF. There's not a day that goes by that we're not learning something. Jim, what have you been learning lately?
Well,
Mr. Professor.
We got this little gizmo here. Well, let me turn it on. It has an interesting screen display. It's
wow.
a network analyzer. And
that looks like a rock band laser show.
Yeah, it does. It has so much data that it can display. You can actually turn some of these displays on and off and what they mean. And right now I just got this yesterday, and right now I'm going to YouTube to try and figure out what the heck I can actually do with this thing. But this little $50 network analyzer, these things that would do this job were $10,000 just a few years ago. And this gizmo was $50. And so, yeah, it doesn't have great resolution, but for ham radio, it seems to be very, very useful. And so I'm learning how to use that now.
I've got mine coming today, so I'm looking forward to that. Now, can you use that to test the values on your cell phone antenna?
I don't think so, because the cell phone antenna is not accessible. It doesn't have an external connection you can connect anything to.
Right. Well, you know, a lot of people say, why would I be interested in using a radio? Do you have a cell phone? That is a radio.
A radio.
And what do we say about photography? What's the best camera you have with you?
No.
I said that wrong. I blew it.
Do you tell the punchline when you tell jokes in the act of telling the joke?
I blew it. I'm Norwegian. What is the best? What is the best camera?
The one you have with you.
There you go. And what's the best radio?
The one you have with you.
Exactly. So if you have a phone, you have a radio. And with this digital world we live in, there are multiple platforms that you can put on your phone and communicate with hams around the world using just your phone or your headset. In fact, I'm slowly introducing Professor Jim to many of these digital modes, and I think he's tired. I think you need to start using what you've got.
Yeah, the problem with Denny is he introduces me to a new mode of communication about every other hour. And he expects me to drop everything and figure out how to use that particular technology. And he's wondering why he keeps sending me messages. Why am I not doing this? Why am I not doing that? There's only 24 hours in the day.
And we make the best of them, don't we?
I hope so.
Well, Professor Jim loves this captive audience. It's kind of bringing him out of retired back into being a professor. I got a kick out of that T-shirt you said your kids bought for you. What was that again?
Well, it says on the front of the T-shirt, if I am talking, you should be taking notes.
Very good. Well, we love to bring you in for our favorite segment of our show, and that's the what if question. We had a good one today. Go ahead. What if?
Well, back in the 70s, there was a movement in the food world to counteract the fast food that everybody was driving up to a window and grabbing a burger and a Coke and wolfing the burger down as you drove into the sunset and not taking the time to enjoy food. So there was a slow food movement. Sit down, enjoy each bite. That was a sort of a counter to the fast food joints. But now I learned, wasn't aware of this before I read this morning's news. There's an annual day in April, in fact, it's tomorrow, April 10, in which many museums around the world have a slow enjoy art movement day. It turns out the average time that people will view a work of art in a museum is less than 30 seconds. And so this movement is trying to get you to sit and look and enjoy the art for a longer period of time. And we have gotten into a mode in which everything is so fast-paced. In the late 1800s, and I'm a fan of editorial cartooning, in the late 1800s, Puck magazine would run double truck cartoons that were so complex that they had to be studied about 30 minutes or so before you could get the full meaning of the cartoon. Furthermore, if you weren't widely read and up to date on politics and national events, you would not have a clue about the full meaning of those cartoons. And I have a friend, Gary Varvel, who's now retired as the editorial cartoonist of the Indianapolis Star. And it's an interesting friendship because he is a conservative cartoonist, and my tendencies are a bit more on the liberal side, but we're very close friends. And he would like his viewers of his editorial cartoons, he would like to grab them for at least 5 seconds. So we've gone from 30 minutes of studying an editorial cartoon to the modern cartoonist hope you will look at their cartoon for at least 5 seconds. So obviously they're much simpler in design, and they have to really grab you if you're going to look at the meaning. So this slow art day tomorrow is to try and get us to enjoy art for a longer period of time and perhaps explore the deeper meanings in that piece of art. And so the question was, what in our lives would we like to slow down and enjoy a bit more than we do in our fast-paced way of living?
Yep. Very good. And of course, we try to take advantage of that in the amateur radio world instead of just, which is typical, make a contact, get a signal report, their QTH and name, log it and move on. We want to spend more time together, get to know one another, get out of our little echo chambers and listen to some other opinions in a respectful way, not trying to change one another, but just to appreciate each other and our differences. And as you and I have gotten to know each other, as you said, we're kind of maybe on different ends of the spectrum, politically, environmentally, whatever it might be. But you and I have learned to really appreciate each other and their differences, respecting that, and maybe learning to walk a mile in the other's shoes and see the world from different viewpoints. So that's kind of what we want to accomplish here in the Digicom Cafe. We really enjoy the hobby, but we enjoy a lot of other things. As you said, motorcycling. We like to motorcycle. We like to camp. We like to see the world. We like to do music. You and I both sing. One of these days we'll have to do a duet here. I think the timing's pretty good.
Do you actually want to lose viewership?
We like to laugh too. We do a lot of laughing around here. So it's very, very enjoyable. I sure appreciate you. And we've been doing it now here in the cafe for about 2 years. I started out simply wanting to hear other people's stories, particularly in ham radio. So if you go back through my audio podcast, if you look for Digicom Cafe, a ham radio buffet, you will see many, many interviews with hams, celebrity hams, just regular hams, young hams, old hams. And you get to hear what it was that drew them into this hobby, what they think about it, what they're enjoying about it now. And the reason I call it a ham radio buffet is because there is a veritable buffet of different aspects of ham radio. I can't even begin to list them all. And so, what I always say, because of competition in the hobby, people are favoriting one thing and putting down another sometimes. I say, hey, you go to a buffet, what do? You pick what you want and you leave the rest. Don't think you're better than someone else because you like ham versus beef or chicken. Enjoy what you like to enjoy and listen to someone else talk about what they enjoy. So that's what we try and do here in the Digicom Cafe. It's my paradigm for the amateur radio life. It's my personal experience. And it's something that everybody can relate to. You know, I don't know about you, probably in your family you talk ham radio and the eyes roll back in their head, whatever, Dad, not really
Yep,
interested.
that's
But
right.
everybody likes to eat. Everybody likes to go to a cafe or a buffet and just fill up their plate and enjoy every bite. So, with your question of the day, we do need to take time to appreciate, don't just swallow your food whole, chew it, savor it, enjoy the various flavors. And that's what we want to do here in our cafe is enjoying every morsel, every experience of radio communications and everything that goes with life, just enjoying each other and our differences. Now, back to your question, we are in this world where we just rush through everything. As I shared in our audio podcast this morning, I'm a big fan of Flipboard. I don't know what news aggregator you use, but in Flipboard, you just flip your thumb up the screen and you go story after story after story, and you can pick your sources even of where that comes from if you're not comfortable with thinking outside of your little box and getting out of your echo chamber. I have a lot of different sources. I have liberal sources, conservative sources, multiple things, and I flip through and I find something interesting and I'll click on it and read the article. But so often in our world today with the internet and the way things have been set up by those that want to market us and control our thinking processes, the creativity is in that title. People call it clickbait. So you're flipping through and, oh, is that really true? And so we start passing on these things that are falsehoods because we haven't taken the time to slowly look at that, look at the article, look what's behind the story. And that's dangerous. I think you'd agree. We need to dig deeper and take our time.
The clickbait things and all news organization websites have them. Usually you get the real news at the top of the web page, and then when you get towards the bottom, there are all these clickbait things which are just designed
trashy.
They're designed to present a series of advertisements because they take a concept and divide it into 30 panels. It's like taking one PowerPoint slide and dividing it into 30. And in presenting the concept over 30 slides, they have an opportunity to present a whole bunch of ads. And it's a disaster. Of course, the reason everybody does it is it produces income because people are attracted to those clickbait things.
Yep. Well, that's not going to be what you get here. We're not about making money or being some #1 video podcast. This is just Jim and I and our friends that will drop in. We want to bring in guests that are doing very important things in amateur radio or in life in general. And we want to feature their efforts, bring attention to their efforts to help make this world a better place, make the hobby more enjoyable. We don't care about making money. Even our producer, Andre, I've mentioned to him about that. He says, no, I just want to have fun playing with OBS and this technology. He's a brilliant guy. And that's the only reason Jim and I are here. We're just having fun. We're making radio fun again. We're enjoying being a positive influence in the world, coming from different perspectives and being an example of what it means to get along. Let's just get along. Let's listen to each other. Our political world is a mess. Everybody's fighting and arguing, and I'm just so sick of it. I enjoy what we're doing. I hope it continues. And we're going to try and keep this to a 30-minute thing. And our producer has sent us a message that we're just past 25 minutes. So, Jim, I'm so glad that you and I have met. Thank you for coming into the Digicom Cafe originally. I had no idea this is where it was going to lead, but I am having a ball.
Well, I am too. And since I'm getting back into radio, ham radio, after decades of not doing anything, I've really appreciated your mentoring me and suggesting communication modes I might want to explore. The problem is you just have too many of them. You're presenting too quickly. But anyway, I'm trying to adapt.
We're just serving up the buffet. You pick what you want and leave the rest. And for those of you that are watching or listening to our podcast, I just want to invite you to join us in our Telegram platform. Right now, that's one of my favorites. We have a Digicom Cafe chat group there. We also have voice chat. Telegram is just an awesome platform. In fact, our audio podcast uses that as our studio. And we can bring any number of guests to join us, to make comments. It's a live podcast. You don't see that very often. So if you want to join us, just go to my call sign, k5dcc.com, and that'll get you right into our Telegram chat. If you like Facebook, we don't have Facebook anymore. I've decided to ditch all of the big tech stuff, and now we have our own. We've had it for a couple of years. We have our own Facebook alternative. It's on the Mighty Networks, and you can get there and join that community at digicomcafe.com. Leave your comments, make your posts, share video links, write articles. In fact, I'm still waiting for you to write some interesting articles, Jim, once you settle down.
Well, didn't I ship you the one on bagels?
Yes. By the way, Jim is quite a baker in the kitchen. He likes to bake homemade bread and bagels, and sourdough is your favorite. Why is that?
Yeah. Well, it's my favorite because it tastes better than anything else.
Well, have you ever thought of 3D printing some?
Well, actually, it would be hard to eat a 3D printed bagel, but I could. I mean, I could design a 3D printed bagel.
With seeds and all.
But you're reminding me of a joke that I got pulled on me, and that's tough to do because I usually figure things out before somebody pulls one on me. But one time when I was a grad student, one of the women in the office had brought in a cake to our morning coffee break, and I was the first one in the break room. There was a slice of cake that sliced off, and it was the end piece with a lot of icing, and boy, I liked that. So I took that piece on my plate, and I put it in my mouth and took a bite, and it was pretty chewy. And pretty soon I realized that the cake that she had brought in was a 2-layer cake too, with icing in between. Oh, it just looked delicious. And she'd use sponges instead of actual cake.
Well, with that story, folks, we will not offer you up sponges. We can't guarantee that everything we talk about will be of interest to you or taste good to you, and that's okay. Come back for another episode, and you might find something that really piques your interest and draws you into this great community of amateur radio operators. With that, Jim, this has been exciting. I can't wait to see the response. I hope people enjoy it. If you like this, if you'd send us a message on whatever platform you happen to find this on, that's up to our producer, Andre. Let us know what you think. If this is something that is very popular and of interest to you, we'll serve it up maybe more than once a week. Anyway, thanks, Jim. 73.
And thanks, Andre, our producer, 73. And for those of you who are not ham, 73 is the way hams terminate a conversation, and it simply means best regards. 73.
And if you'd like to get your license, we both recommend hamtestonline.com, which Jim is going to take his test, I think, tomorrow for your extra class.
That's right.
Very good. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
73.
73.